In this video, I'm going to run through the essential tools that you will need to complete your polished concrete project, whether that be cast in place, GFRC or Microcement. The tools I'm going to share with you are the tools that we use day in, day out to complete all of our projects, whether that be domestic or commercial. Plus, once we've covered the essential tools that you're going to need to complete your project, I'm going to share with you a few secret tips that we use on the workshop floor that will help you complete your project that much quicker, that much easier, and with that much more accuracy. Hi, I'm Toby, and this is Concrete Lab, where we share our knowledge, experience, and expertise so that you can make your own amazing polished concrete. So if you've ever undertaken your own DIY or small construction project, you will already know that having the right set of tools is key to making your project a success. And if you've ever done a DIY project or small construction project and you haven't had the right tools or substandard tools, you will already know how difficult that makes your project to complete. Not only that, not having the right tools to start will commonly result in you having to go out and buy more tools halfway through a project. So in this video, I'll break down the essential tools for each of the concrete methods that we use here regularly at Concrete Lab. All the tools I'm going to discuss with you in this video are going to be in the description below, so you don't have to write anything down or remember anything, it will be there for you. Just remember to bookmark, like, or save this video so that you can come back to it at a future date. So here at Concrete Lab, we have 3 core products and 3 different methods of making polished concrete. Those 3 methods are the prefabrication method, the cast in situ or cast in place method, and trowel applied products. By the way, I'm going to assume that you have all the necessary PPE and protective equipment. I'm also going to assume that you have some form of spill kit before you start your project. You have plastic sheeting so that you can cover up anything that's valuable or you don't want to get damaged or stained or whatever. With the prefabrication method, where we use our GFRC Worktop Premix, the concrete is poured into a pre-made mould where it's left to cure and harden before it's demolded and then processed and sealed. It's a simple enough process, but has a number of steps and consequently has the largest tool sets of all the 3 methods of application. The process for prefab is roughly as follows: mould building, casting, processing, sealing. So starting with the mould building, you will need a glue gun and glue sticks, a silicone gun with good quality silicone, something to round the silicone off with, and that can be as simple as a pencil, and something to cut mould materials with. So as a minimum, you're going to need a circular saw. For the mixing and casting stage, you're going to need something to mix the concrete with and something to mix the concrete in. Now, as a minimum, we would definitely recommend a corded drill with some sort of mixing paddle attachment and some sort of builder's tub, usually about 40 to 50 litres in volume. You'll need plastic sheeting to sheet over the plastic. You'll need blankets to cover over the concrete to keep the heat in whilst it cures, and you'll need a trowel or something similar with a nice flat edge so that you can get the concrete nice and smooth once you've poured it into the mould. For processing the concrete, you will need something to sit the concrete on once it's been demoulded so that the air can get to all sides of the concrete. So something like builder's trestles or something similar. You're going to need an orbital sander, and you're really going to want to have some form of dust extraction attached to that orbital sander. So that could be a hoover with a decent filter. Again, you're going to need a drill and a whisk attachment. This will be for mixing up the smoothing paste so that if there are any small defects in your concrete, you can fill those in. That doesn't have to have a huge amount of oomph to it, just something to mix up like it's the consistency of a filling paste. And along with that, you're going to need some sort of filling knife to apply the smoothing paste that has a nice flexible edge to it. And finally, you will need a roller frame and rollers and a vessel to put liquid into. With the cast in place method, the sequence of steps is as follows: build your mould and then prep it, mix your concrete and then place it in the mould, let the mix go firm and then smooth off the back using a trowel or something similar. Cover it and let the concrete harden up further, then strip the mould and give it a light sand and a seal. So for the mould building, you will need a set of basic carpentry tools. A drill driver, cordless is best, screwdriver and drill bits, a circular saw, possibly a glue gun and glue sticks depending on how you want to build your mould, a silicone gun with good quality silicone, something to round the silicone off or to process the silicone, and that can be as simple as a pencil. And finally, you'll need something to apply the primer and the mould release, so paintbrushes and some form of paint vessel. The next stage is mixing the concrete, and you're going to need at least a corded drill and a paddle attachment. You're also going to need a tub to mix the concrete in. Similar to the GFRC, it's going to need to be a little bit more robust than your average bucket, so a builder's tub, about 40 to 50 litres in volume, is ideal. The next stage is finishing the concrete, and you're going to need a trowel or something similar, an orbital sander with 120 and 180 grit pads, dust extraction to go with that orbital sander, and then you're going to need hand sanding pads for the edges. Finally, for the sealing stage, you're going to need a cordless drill with a whisk attachment. You're going to need a roller frame and rollers, and you're going to need a vessel to put the sealer into. For the microcement, which is trowel applied, the sequence of application is broken down into the following steps. Prepare the substrate with the primer, mix up and apply the first coat of microcement. Let that cure, give that a light sand, reapply a second coat of primer, then mix up and apply the second coat of microcement, give that a light sand, and then you can seal and finish your concrete. So to prepare your substrate with the primer, you're going to need a roller frame and roller heads and a vessel to put the primer into. The next stage is applying the first coat of microcement. You're going to need something to mix the microcement up with, so you're going to need at least a drill with some form of whisk attachment, a bucket or something similar for the microcement to be mixed in, and then you're going to need a microcement spatula or a trowel to apply the microcement itself to the substrate. Once the first coat of microcement has been applied and it's been left to cure, you're going to need to sand the microcement, take off any high spots, ready to apply the second coat of primer and the second coat of microcement. So you're going to need an orbital sander with 120 and 180 grit sanding pads, and you're going to need dust extraction to attach to the orbital sander to take all the dust away. So the next stage is reapplying the primer in the same way that you did with the first coat, and applying the second coat of microcement in exactly the same way as the first, and then sanding that second coat of microcement in exactly the same way that you did with the first coat, except you're going to go for a really smooth, polished finish. And then finally, for the sealing of the concrete, you're going to need something to mix the sealer with, so a cordless drill and whisk attachment, and you're going to need something to apply the sealer with, which is a roller frame and roller heads and a container to put the sealer into. So at the beginning of the video, I said I'd share with you some extra tools that we use here at the workshop to make completing your project that much easier. So I'm going to give you 5 brilliant tool tips, but before I do, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, please click the like and subscribe button to let us know that you are enjoying them. And also, if you've got any tool tips of your own, we would love to hear about them, so please pop them in the comments box below. And of course, if you have any queries, also leave a comment and we'll come back to you within 24 hours. So here is tool tip number 1, silicone tools. Now, you can use just a pencil, which is rounded off at the edge, and it does make a massive difference, and it's very easy compared to using, say, your finger, and it's far less messy. So pencil is great, and always have a little bit of kitchen towel next to you so that you can wipe off any of the excess silicone from the corner of your molds. However, you can buy silicone tools, which are dedicated tools for making neat edges with silicone. Now, the extra secret tip on top of of the silicone tools is to use foaming glass cleaner. So you apply the silicone with your silicone gun, and before using your silicone tool to tool off that nice smooth edge, you spray on some foaming glass cleaner, and that makes sure that the silicone will not stick in any way to any of the tools. And that will make the finish of the edges so much better. Tool tip number 2, when it comes to cutting your mould parts, mould edges, don't use a circular saw. In fact, don't use any tools at all. What you're going to do is you're going to go to your local DIY outlet and check if they've got a wall saw, or find a joinery shop that will have a table saw, and for a small fee you're going to ask them to do the cutting for you. You're going to need to buy these materials anyway, so in large DIY outlets they generally have these wall saws, and they will charge you a small cutting fee to make your strips for your edges, etc., for very little cost, a huge amount of convenience, and most importantly, very accurately. Tool tip number 3, instead of using a corded drill driver with a whisk or mixer attachment, if you're going to be doing anything more than just one simple project, it's definitely worth investing in a paddle mixer. Now you can pick up a paddle mixer for under £200, and in some cases under £100, and they will make much lighter work of mixing the concrete. Tool tip number 4, blankets. Now, blankets aren't necessarily a tool in the same way that a screwdriver or a cordless drill is. However, they will serve a purpose. Now, when concrete first starts to cure, it is an exothermic reaction, a reaction that produces heat, and by applying blankets over the top of your concrete, it's going to keep that heat in. Now, to really kick off that curing process, heated blankets are definitely an option. So again, if you're going to be doing more than one project, and I'm talking about the GFRC Worktop Premix and cast in place mixes, heated blankets are definitely a wise investment, especially if you're going to be doing your projects in the colder months of the year, in the winter months, and if you're going to be doing it in an area that's not heated. So for example, if you're doing it in a cold garage or in a workshop, heated blankets that just go on overnight after the first pour are a really, really good idea. And finally, tool tip number 5. With your orbital sander, don't use standard sanding pads, use wet dry sanding pads. Now, I've put a link in the description below where you can purchase these, and they're really not expensive. You're going to need to buy sanding pads anyway, but having wet dry sanding pads means that you can give the concrete a quick squirt and the pads will hold up. With other non-wet dry sanding pads, these pads will just obliterate. So wet dry sanding pads, we use them all the time here, and it makes for a much better finish and makes much lighter work of processing your concrete. So if you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel, and also click the little bell icon which will notify you every time we upload a new video. Now, if you have any questions, obviously pop them in the comments box below and we will come back to you ASAP, and also ping us an email or use the chat feature on our website and we will come back to you again as soon as possible. Okay, thanks for watching.